Jack fucking Twist.
Hey you guys, this video will be a discussion on masculinity in Brokeback Mountain and Moonlight, two of the most iconic gay films to date. By iconic, I mean well known and referenced throughout American culture, while also receiving notices from Hollywood through award nominations and victories. I'm not saying iconic as in these are the best gay movies ever and everyone needs to watch them, but simply that they're two of the most recognizable gay films in the West. I think this video more as an introduction to the topic of masculinity in gay films, so there may be this may be a topic that I explore more in the future, especially since there are so many gay films to look at now. Now I'll do like a quick summary of both movies, starting with Brokeback Mountain. So in Brokeback Mountain, Jack Twist and Ennis Del Mar are shepherds who work on Brokeback Mountain. Joe Aguirre hires them, and it's their job to protect the sheep on the mountain. Aguirre notices that sheep keep dying, so he starts going up unannounced to see what the fuck is happening and why he's losing sheep. Then he finds Jack and Ennis frolicking and kissing and, basically being romantic. Jack and Ennis have, at this point, fallen for each other, and they then start to routinely go to Brokeback Mountain to meet up, even after they both start their own families. They start meeting less and less, and Jack starts driving down to Mexico and hiring male sex workers to fulfill his needs. As a cute side note, this makes Ennis furious at one point, even though Ennis is the one who tries to end their rendezvous on Brokeback Mountain. Yet, sadly in the end, Jack Twist dies, and so, we get a whole scene with Ennis calling Jack's wife and having her explain to him what happened and how Jack dies. And basically she tells a lie that Ennis had a flat tire, and while working on it, basically his equipment blew up in his face and he died. But while she's telling that story, we get the scene of Jack being attacked by these other three men, and them beating him to death, more than likely because he's gay, and so they apparently find out. So eventually Ennis goes and he visits Jack's parents. Jack's parents inform Ennis that Jack had always promised to come back home with Ennis and that they'd all live together. Or, basically it wasn't so straight as that. More so, Jack said that he and this guy he knew named Ennis would come work on a shed together, and that's where they would live and they would all live together, blah blah blah. Yet Ennis never agreed. Ennis, throughout the film, refutes this future with Jack, just more so claiming that it wouldn't be socially possible or acceptable. But Jack's parents don't seem to hold that against Ennis, and they even, or at least Jack's mom, gives Ennis Jack's old shirt. So there's a form of reconciliation in the end. Now in Moonlight, the viewers follow Chiron through three different stages of his life. As a kid, Chiron witnesses his mother's descent into drug abuse. A local drug dealer, Juan, takes Chiron under his wings. Juan is highly respected in the neighborhood and teaches Chiron how to be a man. In Chiron's teenage years, Juan has passed and Chiron still faces bullying just as he did in his childhood. Chiron and his childhood best friend, Kevin, have an intimate moment on the beach, and Chiron experiences his first orgasm with another person. Chiron later admits that this was his only sexual experience ever, even in his adult years. So, still as a teen, Chiron goes to prison after assaulting one of his bullies and becomes known in the hood as Black when he gets out. So adult Chiron goes by Black. He goes to see Kevin, and the film ends with them sharing an intimate, yet not sexual, moment with one another. Okay, so for the sake of this video, we'll be defining masculinity as these four different points. So, 1, the characters all have deep voices. They all have muscular builds. They all dress in traditionally male clothing. and they don't wear makeup. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, as a disclaimer, obviously we're going by traditional masculinity standards, and this does not attempt to say that this is how all masculine people should be. By traditional, I mean what most audiences coming to see these films would imagine as masculine, which is the whole point of this video, is pointing out how these characters embody masculinity, i.e. what most of the general population would believe to be masculine or manly per se, you know what I mean? So I will argue that masculinity acts as a cultural marker in Moonlight and Brokeback Mountain. Cultural marker, what do I mean? Basically just that, so the characters Chiron, Jack, and Ennis, all of them, while they're masculine, they also belong to a certain culture that, you know, has something to do with their environment. They're, you know, basically they are products of their environment, really. So for example, Chiron is a drug dealer, and, you know, so the director Barry Jenkins basically utilizes this understanding and already established image of black masculinity. You know, the black drug dealer really has become the domineering image of black men in at least Western society, especially in the 21st century. And utilizing this aesthetic and this image, he, I will not dare say that he subverts it. Instead, I feel like he adds complexity to it. While I would refrain from saying that Jenkins subverts the image of the thug, you know, the black thug, because saying that he subverts that image, I would be saying that queerness automatically subverts traditional masculinity, which I believe is incorrect. Because, you know, people can be bi, knowing that not all gay men are effeminate, and, you know, obviously not all straight men are masculine. And, you know, at that point you just get into a discussion about what is what, and, you know, cultural norms or whatnot. But yeah, instead, I feel like Chiron's queerness provides complexity to the masculine imagery of blackness that the audiences already stereotype for gay black men. So he's absolutely, Jenkins is absolutely utilizing the stereotypes that audiences would already have for someone like Chiron, both young and adult Chiron, because, you know, we understand, and if you don't, you know, comment below and we can talk about this in either another video or in the comments. But we understand that in a lot of media representation of young black men in their youth, they're still believed to be, you know, grown by the time they're any kind of like a teenager, you know what I mean? Hence why something like Tamir Rice can happen, you know? Someone like Chiron would be expected to have multiple sexual partners and baby mamas. And again, this is still utilizing that thug imagery and all the stereotypes that comes along with it, you know. And that's just assumption against any attractive person, that they are some type of, you know, provocative, inherently so. But specifying the aesthetic of the black male as a sexual symbol, attached to that is all types of stereotypes, especially poor black men, with just the motif of the poor black man with multiple baby mamas, you know. So again, Jenkins is utilizing that image and Instead, Chiron has had only one sexual partner his whole life. Of course, that being Kevin. Now, while this point about his characters does subvert expectations, it would only diminish blackness to focus on that aspect of Chiron. Basically, I mean that while Chiron does utilize this masculine image while being queer, I don't think we should focus on his queerness as being a subversion to masculinity, especially black masculinity, because that only diminishes blackness and what blackness can look like. And Chiron adds some flavor to that idea, and therefore he helps to saturate that stereotype. Instead, I argue that Chiron presents media with a new kind of black male character, one who is gay and takes up the masculine roles of his community. Now how healthy that use, or how healthy that image is, that can be discussed later or in the comments. But it is true that Chiron takes up those roles of his community, as in being the drug dealer, being like the tough guy and running the streets. Now, how healthy that is, again, I can't say. Now, in comparison, there's Brokeback Mountain. Brokeback Mountain also uses masculinity in a similar manner, whereas both Jack and Ennis demonstrate archetypical masculinity. They blend into their environments, and their queerness provides complexity to the masculine image, specifically, I guess, of white Southern men. But I feel like because Jack and Ennis are white, they would simply just be called men. And by archetypical masculinity, what I mean to say is that they have these characteristics of the deep voice, the masculine builds. They dress in traditional male clothing, and obviously do not use feminine products like makeup. So they're obviously masculine traditional men. These characters' acceptance of themselves does not become the main source of conflict. Instead, Jack, Ennis, and Chiron experience personal and romantic conflicts. Their issues revolve around the sexuality because these are romantic stories. That is to say, for what it's worth, these are romantic stories like any other romance movie would depict. The movies do not completely focus on the characters struggling to learn to accept themselves. Instead, these two movies focus on Jack, Ennis, and Chiron's attempts to find love in environments that do not accommodate them and their desires.